All four lawyers prosecuting longtime Trump associate Roger Stone abruptly quit the case yesterday after the Justice Department announced its plans to reduce the recommended sentence for Roger Stone. The revised proposal does not ask for a specific sentence, but it suggests it should be far less than the original time. It also urges the judge to take into account Stone's advanced age, health, personal circumstances, and lack of criminal history in fashioning an appropriate sentence.
And his grooming.
We learned of the
give me a
decision to pull back on the request to sentence Stone to 7 to 9 years in prison shortly after President Trump blasted the proposal on Twitter, calling it a, quote, miscarriage of justice. However, the DOJ says the decision to override the sentencing recommendation was made before the president's
Show us the
tweet.
receipts, Roy Cohn.
President Trump spoke to reporters in the Oval Office yesterday and said he was not involved in the DOJ's decision about Stone's sentence.
Wait, where are we playing this? I don't want to play this.
I don't either.
I don't want to. It's a lie. I don't want to play it. Why would we play Okay, here's the deal. The president lied yesterday and said he had nothing to do with the Senate. It's a lie. He and Roy Cohn worked together to do this. And by the way, if the president's tweeting it's a miscarriage of justice and your attorney general is Roy Cohn, what else do you have to say?
Well, ask Michael Cohen how the president telegraphs what he wants people to do.
Seriously.
Roy Cohn, or Attorney General William Barr, knew exactly what he was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And this is as staggering as it gets on a legal level.
And so the president, of course, getting what he wanted from his Roy Cohn, went on Twitter last night and, was lashing out at the four prosecutors. And just take that down, because really that's a lie, too. Just know that he lied in his tweet last night. Like he's going crazy. He's firing American heroes, kicking him out of his White House. He's asking for Vindman, a guy who's an American hero, literally an American hero, a war hero, to be prosecuted for telling the truth about what Donald Trump did.
Right.
And what Republican senators said Donald Trump did.
What are you thinking right now, Susan Collins and Lamar Alexander?
So Susan Collins,
I'm just curious.
I'm curious if you really still think that Donald Trump learned his lesson, or if the lesson that Donald Trump learned was, with senators like you giving him a blank check, he can do whatever the hell he wants. Vindman, that's on you. Sondland, that's on you. Roger Stone, Susan Collins, that's on you. And Lamar Alexander, it's on you. And it's on every Republican that taught Donald Trump, once again, there are no consequences to his actions. So this is your fault. This is your country. You know what? It's not like we just started saying this, that Donald Trump has to be shown that there are boundaries. We said this to Paul Ryan in the summer of 2016 when he endorsed Donald Trump and got nothing in return for it. Republicans from that point forward have never held him accountable, and that's why our constitutional republic literally, the institutions in it literally are being challenged every single day by this would-be dictator. I mean, basically, that sounds tough, doesn't it? You tell me.
That's the word I was going to use.
Would Donald Trump not do whatever he could do if he could get away with it? Seriously, if he could arrest every journalist he didn't like, if he could arrest us tomorrow, let me ask you a question. Do you think he would arrest us tomorrow? Do you think he would arrest the editor of the New York Times, the editor of the Washington Post, Jeff Bezos? Do you think he'd arrest him tomorrow and throw him in jail to silence him?
Like it.
Do you think he could? Because if you say he wouldn't, you're just lying to yourself. He will get away with whatever he can get away with. And he did this yesterday. Something extraordinary that hasn't been done in our lifetime. He did it because you Republican senators gave him a blank check. Congratulations, Susan Collins. Congratulations, Cory Gardner. Congratulations, Lindsey. Congratulations, Martha McSally. Congratulations, Who's the guy in North Carolina
Tom
with
Tillis.
a 31% approval rating? Congratulations, Tommy boy. Good job, Tommy boy. This is on your shoulders. Let's bring in right now former U.S. Attorney and MSNBC contributor Barbara McQuade and NBC News correspondent covering national security and intelligence, Ken Dilanian. Ken's latest reporting is entitled Barr Takes Control of Legal Matters. That's one way to put it. Of interest to Trump, including the Stone sentencing. We'll get to Ken in a second. Barbara, has this am I being melodramatic? Because I really hate being melodramatic at 6:33 in the morning. But has this happened in my lifetime? Even back when I was playing T-ball during Watergate, has this ever happened before?
No, not that I'm aware of. And Joe, two things that I think people should be aware of. Number one, the original sentence that the prosecutors asked for of 7 to 9 years is the sentencing guideline sentence. That's the presumptive sentence. That's not a high number.
Those are, I'm sorry. Those are guidelines. So the prosecutors weren't like going out of their way to get Roger Stone. Those were the DOJ's own guidelines.
Not even DOJ, Joe, the U.S. Sentencing Commission guidelines. They gather data from all over the country about cases. They put aggravating factors, which are not mentioned in the second memo that was filed by Timothy Shea and John Crabb. Aggravating factors that occurred in this case, like Roger Stone's behavior during trial, like his actual obstruction that prevented Congress from getting information, like his threat to kill one of the witnesses. Those are the kinds of things that contribute to that calculation, and that calculation was 7 to 9 years. They were not asking for anything higher than what those U.S. sentencing guidelines provided. The other thing, Joe, that I think people should know is, in a case of this magnitude, no way did Timothy Shea, the U.S. Attorney, and William Barr not know what the number would be on Monday when that sentencing memo was filed. The only thing that changed between Monday and Tuesday when the supplemental filing was made was President Trump's tweet. And that's why so many of my colleagues and I are just outraged that the Justice Department did this about-face, changed its position after seeking a guideline sentence. And the only thing that appears to have changed between those two events is President Trump's tirade on Twitter. That suggests that the Department of Justice has been taken over by politics.
Hey, Barbara, the 4 prosecutors, as you know, on the case resigned immediately. One of them left the Justice Department altogether. You're a former U.S. attorney. How extraordinary is that step? Have you seen that before? And what would it take for you to resign from your career? What would be the circumstances around a decision like that?
It is an extremely drastic measure. I think that those of us who worked in the Justice Department today are seeing them as heroes for doing that. Not only withdrawing from the case, but one instance, as you mentioned, leaving your job.
Yeah.
That AUSA was a particularly good AUSA. He was well known. He had been a Supreme Court clerk, had done tremendous work at the Justice Department. These are great jobs. People work very hard to get them. They're highly competitive. They are considered plum jobs in the legal community. To leave that job is a very significant sacrifice. Even to quit the case is a very significant step.
That's a big message. Ken Dilanian, can you talk about Barr's role in all of this and the implications?
Well, Mika, we're reporting that this is part of a pattern where Barr and his top aides, it looks like they are seeking to take control of every single case that Donald Trump is concerned about. You know, William Barr, it's well known, he believes that the Mueller investigation was improperly founded, that it was the result of a bunch of political hacks getting together and trying to frame the president, that it was overzealous. And so now you have, not only in this Roger Stone case, but in the Mike Flynn sentencing case, while we were all paying attention to the impeachment trial, prosecutors filed a new document saying that they were okay with Flynn getting probation. That was a change from their prior position where they had been recommending prison time. And what Carol Lee and I are reporting is that that came under pressure from Barr and his top aides. And, you know, look, as Barbara was saying, look, it's not uncommon for senior officials at the Justice Department to weigh in on the debate about a sentencing guideline. And, you know, they have an argument here that, you know, while Stone was convicted of witness intimidation, the witness he threatened, Randy Credico, is now saying, I didn't really take it as a threat. So maybe you can have a disagreement about the guidelines. What's different here is they filed a document with the court saying it's the position of the Justice Department that the guidelines are 7 to 9 years. And then the next day, the Justice Department, Barr and his aides, completely undercut the work and the word of those four public servants, and said this isn't our position. So of course they had to resign. Their whole integrity was called into question, and nobody has ever seen this before.
So Ken,
for prosecutors stepping out of a case.
We know federal judges are a very independent lot. And is it not likely that this federal judge, lifetime appointment, might look at the first recommendation and look at all the nonsense swirling around the president's Twitter feed and look at just how pathetic and obsequious Roy Cohn, Attorney General Roy Cohn's being, and say, you know what, I'm going to follow the first recommendation. This is, in fact, it would be bizarre for him not to, since these go along with the regular guidelines. So the judge can still follow the first recommendations, and what you say, it might be even more likely than not that he or she would.
It's Judge Amy Berman Jackson, and don't forget, famously, there was an incident where Roger Stone posted a photo of her in the crosshairs. That was part of the misconduct that he was accused of during the trial. So you're absolutely right, Joe. This may turn out to be bad for Roger Stone, this whole controversy, because the judge doesn't have to follow the guidelines. In fact, I've talked to many legal observers who said, look, there's no way Stone, first offender, senior citizen, was going to get 9 years in this case. That's not happening. But now she's got to inquire about what happened. One of my sources predicted that she will call the interim U.S. attorney, Timothy Shea, to the courtroom and demand an explanation for why one day the Justice Department said 7 to 9 years and the next day they completely changed tack. She knows these prosecutors withdrew. I mean, we were all watching. It was incredible yesterday. We were watching the website or the federal court system, PACER, and refreshing the docket. And one by one, these letters came in from the four prosecutors resigning from the case. And in one case, Jonathan Kravis quitting altogether the Justice Department. He was deputy chief of the fraud and public corruption section at the U.S. Attorney's Office. An important job. As Barbara said, he had clerked for 2 Supreme Court justices, a public servant of impeccable integrity, resigning the department in protest. We've never seen anything like this, guys.
Barbara, I asked the same question of you about the likelihood that the judge would follow the first recommendation. I mean, I certainly have never been around, never known, never practiced before a federal judge, especially in Northwest Florida. My God, if you tried to do this in Northwest Florida, the federal judge, regardless of who appointed him, would come down hard on whoever was standing in front of him representing the government. I mean, isn't it just as likely that this actually backfires on Stone?
Well, I think if you're Judge Amy Berman Jackson, 2 things. One, as you said, Joe, judges are famously independent, and so she is going to decide what she thinks is the right sentence. Recommendations are just that, and then she makes her own decision about what that sentence should be. And I think the other thing that's important, is despicable as Roger Stone is, that she should not take out on him the misconduct of what's going on within the Department of Justice. So that's a distraction that she's going to have to set aside. But I agree with Ken. If I were Amy Berman Jackson, I would call in the Justice Department and say, what is going on here? Which is your actual recommendation? Why did this happen? And so it wouldn't surprise me to see her call in Timothy Shea, who is the U.S. attorney, maybe even these 4 lawyers who have withdrawn from the case, to ask what happened here, why is this, why did your recommendation change, and what is the actual position of the Department of Justice?
Well,
so I think that...
I'm sorry, go ahead, Barbara.
I think she will do that before the sentencing hearing, so as not to make it about Roger Stone and to make it about what happened here at the Justice Department, to find out what is the true recommendation and what caused them to change their minds.
Yeah, and of course you don't want it to be taken out on any defendant, the actions of somebody else. At the same time, you know, if the recommendation was 7 to 9, those are the guidelines. It's not like there are any mitigating factors going in Roger Stone's way. He acted horribly before and during his trial. And time again, he showed absolutely no respect. He showed contempt for the judicial system. So any argument coming from DOJ suggesting that this guy is owed a break, I'd be shocked if that didn't fall on deaf ears of any federal
I mean,
judge.
we just have to back up. It's shock and awe every day with this presidency, and it's very easy to get desensitized. But this president is influencing the judicial system to help out a buddy.
Trying to.
This is not America.
Well,
when that happens.
Well, he's trying to. Let me tell you what America is. America is a place where there are Madisonian checks and balances, and there's still 3 branches. So guess
We'll
what?
see. Yeah.
He can do what he wants to do in the second branch. The first branch is completely capitulated, at least on the Senate side. We'll see if the judges continue to live by the oath they swore to when they took that lifetime appointment, because for the most part, they have over the past 3 years. They have held firm.
NBC's Ken Dilanian and Barbara McQuaid, thank you both for joining us this morning. And coming up, Michael Bloomberg is facing criticism this morning for a years-old audio clip where he appears to defend the controversial stop and frisk policy he presided over as mayor of New York City in very racial terms. We'll have that new reporting and how the story quickly took on a Bloomberg versus Trump angle. We'll be right back.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.